Welcome to the Deep Dive into Agile Marketing Podcast with your host, John Cass. Together, we'll take a closer look at the ins and outs of marketing through an agile lens. You'll learn from interviews with top agile thought leaders and practitioners and gain fresh new insights for your journey. Let's get ready to dive in.
Welcome to the State of Agile Marketing podcast. I'm your host, John Cass, here in Boston, Massachusetts. Today, I'll be interviewing Martin Sinning, former freelance marketing consultant and coach, and since May of this year, head of marketing Europe at Corporate Benefits. We're going to be talking about the Agile Marketing Trend Report for Germany. Welcome, Martin.
Thanks, John. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, and I'm excited to dive into the report. Can you tell me how you came to, first, can you tell me how you came to marketing and agile marketing?
Yeah, yes, of course. It's a bit of a longer story. It actually started in 1995 when I started working in the marketing domain. At that time, I started working in agencies, which I then did for 20 years, mainly marketing, brand marketing, digital marketing agencies, and consulting and management roles. And in agencies, as you might know, agile working practices were more common already, especially creating projects, website projects, platforms, and so on, with Scrum and other methodologies. And then I started actually deep dive a bit more into agile marketing practices when I moved in 2016 onto the enterprise side as a B2B marketing expert in an European energy company. And it was at that time that company was on an agile transformation journey with quite some initiatives they started to implement and foster agile working practices. And in the international B2B marketing team where I was working, we actually took that chance to adapt agile working practices. So that was in 2016, 2017. And also at that time, I started following a bit more like agile marketing experts in the US, and one of the companies I was following is the Agile Sherpas. And as you know, they're doing this State of Agile Marketing report since a couple of years, and that actually gave me the impulse last year to look into what is the state of agile marketing in Germany, realizing that it's more at the beginning of a journey in Germany, but that it gets more traction. So I looked around for some partners to do that report actually to create that.
And what were some of the highlights of the report in terms of the results?
Let me just maybe start with some words to the methodology. So we did more like an explorative report, which means we had a quantitative part with a survey and a qualitative part with around 20 interviews with marketing experts from companies in different industries. And then we combine these learnings from the survey and from the interviews to get some proper insights how the state of agile marketing is in Germany. So first of all, what we saw is that agility has a high priority for more than 50% of the companies we were talking to from the survey and from the interview. So that's already, as I would say, like a good sign that it has a high priority. And then also what we could see is that 44% of the companies apply at least partly agile marketing practices in the marketing team or in the marketing department. And there's already like 35% that's using agile marketing since 1 or more years. So it's not like that everyone is at the starting point. So there are already a good share of who has some experience with agile marketing practices for several years. And maybe another interesting learning was that these companies that they apply agile marketing also for planning, creation, and execution. So in different, let's say, states of marketing activities. But what we also could see is that it's very clearly more used for tactical marketing activities. Yeah, so like campaign planning and execution, for frequent content marketing execution, or for performance marketing. Yeah, these were like three keywords that we heard quite often. And then what I found very interesting is when you look at the frameworks and the methods the companies are using, that there is still a high dominance of Scrum as a framework, and then using Scrum or parts of Scrum in different ways. I mean, it's somehow clear where it comes from, because when you do agile practices already in your company, then it usually comes from the IT or from the software development, right? And then it floats into other departments, hopefully. But we also could see that there are marketing teams that already applying a kind of hybrid approach, so using different methods and applying it in a way how it works the best for your team and for your marketing organization. So that were like some of the highlights we could see.
And how did the report help marketers to understand how to implement agile marketing?
I think that it's like the mix of quantitative data on the one side from the survey, and on the other side the qualitative insights from interviews, and we combine that with providing general knowledge on agile marketing. So from starting with a definition and starting with a kind of giving it some context, talking about the values and the principles, so that you get a better understanding of that it's not just using methods and tools, it's about having the right mindset for it. So we use the report to actually put all these things together with the data, so that you have a feeling of, okay, this is what agile marketing is about. This is what are the experience in the market, in the German market, what companies are experiencing with applying agile marketing practices, and then some very concrete guidance, like things you should avoid, or some tips how you can start a pilot, or like an X course into planning methods like OKR to help you to do your goal setting also in a way that it helps agile marketing teams. So it's quite a good mix of these things, so that marketing leaders, marketing teams can use the data from the market plus the knowledge as a kind of starting point for their journey, for their start of a journey with agile marketing.
Well, that sounds very helpful to marketers in being able to use the research to then apply to other projects.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe. You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Christy Heiler hosts a fantastic podcast called Own It. Christy, tell us more about the show.
Own It is all about celebrating women and non-binary advertising agency owners. We talk about buying out of the boys' club of advertising because less than 1% of ad agencies are owned by women.
And where can people subscribe?
You can find the podcast at untilyouownit.com. We're also on the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcast.net. And of course, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard her. Go subscribe.
What sectors were covered in the report, and what were some of the qualitative insights you found most interesting from the folks who were interviewed?
Well, we did on purpose. We did not focus on a specific industry, since it was the first report of that kind. We really chose the participants from several industry sectors, B2B and B2B. The interview partners then they came from telecommunication, from energy, IT. We had some retailers, some like production, like a steel production company, for example, a very interesting sector. So the insights, I have a couple that I can share with you. That the one is, and that is what I learned also happens in other markets and also in the US. It's applying agile ways of working very often starts from a specific department. So you have like a starting point somewhere. And as I said in the beginning, very often what we learned, it's the IT, or the software development that using agile working practices. And then there is either like a planned agile transformation that is somehow initiated from the leadership, or other departments. And interesting wise, it's then very often marketing who picks up the agile working practices and tries to apply that for their work. Then what we also could see is that then looking into marketing, that agile methods and tools are used very specifically. So we could hear very often that, and also could see from the data, that working with a board, like a Kanban board, is something that is easy to implement, and you can start making the work in a team more transparent. Another topic was how to become more customer focused. So we learned that they start using, like, for example, personas. They start working with canvas models, or more advanced using then methods like design thinking to focus your view on the market, and also get into a kind of test and learn method or approach. And one thing that was more like a critical aspect is working in a cross-functional cross-functional collaboration. So working in a cross-functional team, since German companies still very often are very much like structured in a hierarchical way. You have specific goals in the specific teams, and then you start working in a kind of cross-functional way, and then you have this conflict of different goals, people following, and that is like a critical aspect we could hear, where also people then fail when start working in a cross-functional team, because people get frustrated and can't really work on a common goal. It's then also like the leadership aspect that we could hear, which is sometimes also a barrier that leadership would allow to do some pilots. It would allow to practice some agile working methods in marketing, but then you realize that they either don't have the needed knowledge, the required knowledge to evaluate what happened there and how the organization can benefit from it, or they even don't have the right skills and experience to lead that pilot. But then also positive things, what we could see is that companies starting to implement, like, for example, agile coaches, or teams with agile working experience, and they help marketing teams more in a more frequent way to adapt and to apply agile marketing practices in their team, and help them on a journey over time, to make these experiences and kind of working in a more protected environment, but bringing in that required experience on how to apply agile methods on a specific domain, in that case, marketing.
What did the report do in terms of giving insights into the maturity stage of agile marketing adoption in Germany? We talked a little bit about, the Scrum approach. How is that an indicator of where companies are with adoption?
I mean, what the report shows very clearly is that agile marketing is a topic in marketing organizations and teams. So that teams start to applying it. But when we look at the way agile marketing is adopted, and also the barriers that still exist, I would say that it's still at a lower maturity stage. So a starting point, very fresh. And what I always find interesting is this example with Scrum, the Scrum versus a hybrid approach. So what we can see, and the numbers from the survey showing that people just start using Scrum because this is what they learned from other departments in the company, or you have people in the company that are a Scrum master, and then they say, well, I can help you. Let's do Scrum in marketing, and then they start doing Scrum in marketing, and then they somehow fail and they get frustrated. And when we look at what happened in the US, and I'm referring to the Agile Marketing, the State of Agile Marketing report, where you could see that shift from a dominance of Scrum versus now a dominance of a hybrid approach, and Scrum is quite is not dominating at all. It's maybe a tool that is used by 15% of the companies in a frequent way. So what I would expect is that and what you could see already a bit from the numbers, what you could hear from the interviews, that marketing teams, marketing leaders understand more and more that they have to look into the toolbox I have, the methods and toolbox I have in the agile space, and then see what framework and what specific tools help me in my work. Yeah? And that could be very different from being a B2C company with an FMCG products, or if you are like in the B2B sector and having products with a long selling cycle. And this is what I expect what will happen in the German market as well.
Will you be doing another edition of the Trend Report again in 2024?
We are actually thinking about and we are aware of that. It's definitely interesting to observe the progress in agile marketing adoption in Germany, and to follow how applying agile working practices is changing. Yeah, so we are still not fixed yet in doing it and when, but we thinking about it and have the intention to do it.
Well, I hope you do, Martin. I think that's one of the aspects of the Agile Sherpa's longitudinal report, the fact that you can look across the different reports and the trends that happen has a huge impact.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for joining us on the State of Agile Marketing in Germany. I really appreciate you joining me today, Martin.
Thanks to you, John, for having me as a guest in your podcast, and hope to see you again.
All right. We'll see you again next time. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Deep Dive into Agile Marketing podcast. Be sure and subscribe to our show and leave a review to let us know what you thought of today's episode. And if you like what you heard and want to learn more, visit www.businessagility.institute.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.